Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Unman Bhattacharya. Coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Maldives President Moiz holds talks in Malé. Both sides sign several agreements, launch FTA negotiations. India extends fresh line of credit of $565 million to Maldives. Thailand declares martial law in 8 districts bordering Cambodia as their worst cross-border firing in years enters day 2. Iran and Britain, France and Germany hold nuclear talks in Istanbul on ratifying 2015 UN sanctions in first face-to-face dialogue since last month's military strikes and ceasefire agreement with Israel. France defends decision to recognize Palestinian state. Trump dismisses Macron's move, says his statement does not carry weight.
Well, he made a statement, France, Macron. His statement doesn't carry any weight. He's a very good guy, I like him, but that statement doesn't carry weight.
At the FIDE Women's World Cup, brace for an all-India final as Koneru Hampi faces Divya Deshmukh in Georgia on Saturday for the big prize. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held wide-ranging talks with Maldives President Moiz at President's office. They discussed cooperation in the fields of development partnership, capacity building, health, infrastructure, digital economy, aquaculture, climate change and renewable energy. India and Maldives also announced the launch of negotiations for a free trade agreement. PM Modi and President Moiz also jointly inaugurated the Ministry of Defence building in Maldives. PM Modi donated 2 Bhishma cubes to Maldives during his 2-day visit. Built under India's Arogya Maitri program, Bhishma is a modular, self-sufficient healthcare unit meant to serve any place that lacks immediate medical infrastructure through regular primary healthcare outreach, mass gatherings, remote island clinics, as well as by serving natural disaster or calamity sites. India and Maldives have officially announced the initiation of negotiations for a free trade agreement. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri expressed optimism, saying that an FTA should be concluded rather quickly. Listen in.
On the FTA talks, I can't point to an exact timeline, but my understanding from discussions with my Commerce Ministry colleagues is that this is an FTA that we should be able to conclude rather quickly. Today's agreement reflects an understanding that essentially it reflects the agreement on the terms of reference, which usually is something that takes more time. But these have been agreed, and now it remains for offers to be discussed and exchanged and discussed, and that is the next stage that will take place. My expectation is that it will get done fairly quickly.
So India and Maldives have announced the launch of negotiations for a free trade agreement. We also expect a bilateral investment treaty to be sealed between the two sides in the times to come. Earlier in the day, we saw a very productive day one of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Maldives. This is his third visit to Maldives and the first state visit of PM Modi to Maldives under President Moitz. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the first head of government to be in Maldives after Dr. Mohammad Moitz became the president of Maldives in 2023. There was previously another historic visit that we saw of President Moitz to India in October last year, that is in October 2024, where a comprehensive joint vision was adopted by both sides, and it has also been decided after today's talks that various elements of the joint vision will be implemented in letter and spirit going forward, and newer areas of collaboration will be explored. So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held wide-ranging talks with the Maldives President Moitz at President's office in Malé. They discussed cooperation in the fields of development partnership, capacity building, health, infrastructure, digital economy, aquaculture, climate change and renewable energy. India and Maldives announced the launch of negotiations for a free trade agreement. PM Modi and President Moitz also jointly inaugurated the Ministry of Defence building in Maldives.
India and Maldives signed several MOUs and agreements in key sectors following delegation-level talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Maldives President Mohammad Moitz in Malé on Friday. Both leaders reviewed the entire spectrum of relations and reaffirmed their commitment to further strengthening India-Maldives ties. The two leaders called for closer collaboration to enhance peace, progress and prosperity of the Indian Ocean region. The countries announced launch of negotiation for free trade agreement. Prime Minister Modi announced $565 million credit line for Maldives.
हमारी डेवलपमेंट पार्टनरशिप को नई उड़ान देने के लिए हमने मालदीव के लिए $565 मिलियन यानी लगभग 5,000 करोड़ रुपए की लाइन ऑफ क्रेडिट देने का निर्णय लिया है। यह मालदीव के लोगों की प्राथमिकताओं के अनुरूप यहाँ के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के विकास से जुड़ी परियोजनाओं के लिए इस्तेमाल ली जाएगी।
While Maldivian President reaffirmed his country's commitment to further strengthen ties with India across various sectors.
Our people-to-people connections have long been the foundation of the relationship between the Maldives and India. Through cultural exchanges, tourism, education, and familial bonds, we continue to strengthen mutual understanding and goodwill between our nations. Looking ahead, we are fully committed to further strengthen our cooperation with India across a broad range of sectors through exchange of high-level visits. Prime Minister Modi, I once again thank you for your commitment to enhancing the close ties between the Maldives and India.
Agreements signed between the two countries relate to agreement for an LOC or line of credit of INR 4,850 crores to Maldives, a mandatory agreement on reducing annual debt repayment obligation of Maldives on Government of India funded LOCs, terms of reference of the Indian-Maldives Free Trade Agreement, MOU on cooperation in the field of fisheries and aquaculture, MOU between Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, Ministry of Earth Sciences and the Maldives Met Services, Ministry of Tourism and Environment, MOU on cooperation in the field of sharing successful digital solutions implemented at population scale for digital transformation between Ministry of Electronics and IT of India and Ministry of Homeland Security and Technology of Maldives. MOU on recognition of Indian pharmacopoeia by Maldives, network-to-network agreement between India's NPCI, International Payments Limited, and Maldives Monetary Authority on UPI in Maldives. Under India's buyer's credit facilities, over 3,300 social housing units were handed in Hulmale. Earlier in the day, Prime Minister Modi received ceremonial welcome and guard of honor for Prime Minister Modi in Malé, Maldives. In a ceremonial gesture, Prime Minister was also accorded a 21-gun salute symbolizing strong bilateral ties between India and the island nation. A new 10-story defense building in Maldives, funded by India, was also inaugurated. Upon his arrival in Maldives, Prime Minister Modi received a warm and enthusiastic welcome from the Indian diaspora as he arrived at Malé. Prime Minister Modi will participate in the 60th Independence Day celebrations of Maldives as the guest of honor on 26 July.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's day one visit of the Maldives concluded with several key agreements ranging from economic cooperation and digital transformation to a major line of credit worth 4,850 crores. This comprehensive partnership highlights India's support to the development journey of Maldives. With camera person Anish Shivakumar, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Malé, Maldives.
Moving on to some other news, a decades-old border dispute between Thailand and Cambodia has flared up into a deadly conflict. It's killed 16 people and displaced over 100,000. Heavy artillery exchanges continue, with Thailand warning of possible war. Thailand has also declared martial law in 8 areas bordering Cambodia after deadly clashes. At the heart of the clash is a disputed ancient temple. Our next report by DD India's Mihir Maikuri has the details.
A new flashpoint has erupted in Southeast Asia amid ongoing conflicts in various parts of the world. A deadly border clash between Thailand and Cambodia has claimed 16 lives and has left over 100,000 people displaced. On the second day of the conflict, Friday saw heavy arms exchanges. Thailand has issued a stark warning. War could be imminent.
As I've said, the situation has intensified and could escalate into a state of war. For now, it's just clashes, using heavy weaponry. We are diligently defending our territory to prevent further incursions and fiercely upholding our national sovereignty.
Thailand accused Cambodia of attacking civilian areas.
The Cambodian forces continue to use heavy weapons and long-range weaponry, supporting fire to attack the front lines and rear areas, affecting civilians and humanitarian sites such as hospitals. Clashes have been reported in 12 areas, including Chongbok, Chong An Ma.
Meanwhile, Cambodians donated blood to support its troops.
When I saw our army men sacrificing their lives to defend our country, it motivated me to come to donate my blood as reserves to be used when necessary.
Diplomatic overtures have produced mixed responses. Cambodia welcomed a ceasefire proposal from Malaysia, but Thailand has rejected third-party mediation.
A lot of our allies, our friends, countries like the United States, China, has called us and to verify the facts and showed concern. And they did ask, they did offer that if needed, they are ready to help facilitate dialogues. In our position on this is that we don't think we need any mediation from a third country yet.
The violence began early Thursday near a disputed ancient temple and quickly spread along multiple sections of the land border. This isn't the first time heritage has turned into a battlefield. Thailand and Cambodia have disputed sections of their land border for over a century, areas left undemarcated since France first mapped the region in 1907, while Cambodia was under colonial rule. Thailand later contested the French map, which followed the natural watershed line. In the year 2000, both nations formed a joint boundary commission, but progress has since stalled. Historical sites have fueled tensions, most notably in the year 2003, when anti-Thai riots erupted in Cambodia over a Thai celebrity's remark about Cambodia's Angkor Wat. At the core of the dispute is the 11th century Priya Vihara temple claimed by both countries. Although the International Court of Justice awarded the temple to Cambodia in the year 1962, Thailand continues to contest the surrounding land. With the region now teetering on the edge of open war, the world watches, hoping that ancient rivalries don't write a new chapter in modern warfare. Mihir Makhuri for DD India.
Still to come on DD India NewsHour. British doctors launch a 5-day strike after talks with government for a new pay hike fail. France's top court annuls arrest warrant against Syria's Bashar al-Assad. Poland signs a $4 billion US loan guarantee to help fund modernization of its armed forces.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. A new chapter in nuclear diplomacy is unfolding as Iran meets with European powers in Istanbul. This marks the first face-to-face dialogue since last month's military strikes and a ceasefire agreement with Israel. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay brings us more.
Iran and the three European countries, France, Britain and Germany, held a fresh round of closed-door nuclear talks on Friday. The meeting took place in Istanbul and is the first one since Iran and Israel agreed to a ceasefire in June this year. This is the seventh round of talks since September last year, when negotiations began on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Iran signed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, in 2015 with 6 world powers: Britain, China, France, Germany, Russia and the United States. Under the deal, Iran agreed to limit its nuclear activities in exchange of sanctions relief. However, the US withdrew from the agreement in 2018, leaving the remaining parties, Europe, China and Russia, to keep the deal alive. To allow time for diplomacy, the European trio, known as the E3, has set an end of August deadline for progress, failing which Iran would have to face sanctions. Diplomats say Iran must take concrete steps to extend the deal by up to 6 months. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
Poland signed a $4 billion US loan guarantee to help fund the modernization of its armed forces. This is the third US foreign military financing, or FMF, loan received by Poland since 2023. Over the past 2 years, total US loan support to Poland under the FMF has exceeded $15 billion, a clear evidence of the strength of our alliance, said the US Embassy in Warsaw. The US Department of State announced the loan guarantee in December last year. The federal government of Canada announced that it is imposing new 25% tariffs on a broad range of imports from the United States with immediate effect. The sweeping measure covers nearly $30 billion worth of US goods, including steel and aluminium products, and marks a significant escalation in the ongoing trade standoff between Ottawa and Washington. DD India's Tarun Paul Singh gets us this report.
The 25% surtax will hit a wide spectrum of American exports. Crucially, targets US steels and aluminium entering Canada, the very metals at the heart of this dispute. But the list doesn't stop there. It spans dozens of other categories, from industrial materials to everyday consumer products. Canadians can expect higher prices on items ranging from orange juice and peanut butter to wine, beer, appliances, and even motorcycles, all of which are among the US goods now facing tariffs. In short, the tariff list touches everything from raw material to food and household items, underscoring how broad the retaliatory measures are. Canadian officials are characterizing these tariffs as direct countermeasure to US trade actions. According to a government statement, the 25% duties will remain in place until the US eliminates its tariffs against Canadian steels and aluminium products, a clear reference to the American levies that sparked this retaliation. Ottawa insists that it has little choice but to respond in kind to order defend Canadian industries and jobs. Prime Minister Mark Carney has argued that the Washington moves left Canada no option but to stand up for our national economic interest. Action by Canada comes on the heel of a series of aggressive US trade measures that have upended the normal Canada-US trading relationship. Since his return to office in January, US President Donald Trump has steadily raised barriers against Canadian imports. In early February, Trump imposed 25% tariff on most goods from Canada, under a national security pretext tied to drug and border concerns. He then retashed up pressure further. In June, he doubled US imports duties on steel and aluminium to 50%, a move that struck directly at Canadian metal and exporters. And just weeks ago, the White House warned of even broader measures. Trump announced plans to slap a 35% tariff on all Canadian imports by August 1 if his demands weren't met. These US action, unprecedented against American closest ally, set the stage to the retaliation we are now seeing from Ottawa. Canada officials note that the Washington tariff violates the spirit of the USMCA Free Trade Pact and were introduced to pressure Canada on issues like fentanyl trafficking, like Ottawa calls a false excuse. For now, however, neither side is blinking. The Canadian government's stance is that it will maintain this counter tariff dollar for dollar until Washington reverse course, and President Trump, known for his handling trade position, appears prepared to continue the confrontation, believing it gives him leverage. The result is that the Canada-US trade relationship has entered uncharted territory. From Canada, this is Tarun Paul Singh.
In Britain, thousands of resident doctors have begun a strike. It's a 5-day strike on Friday after the British Medical Association, or BMA, and government failed to reach an agreement over pay restoration. Resident doctors and those below consultant level have said they felt they had no choice but to strike again to reverse pay erosion since 2008. Speaking on the issue, Britain's Health Minister Wes Streeting said that the BMA have taken a reckless and unnecessary action.
We are doing everything we can to minimise the risk to patients and to minimise the disruption. The BMA have taken what is reckless and unnecessary action, forgetting that they've had a 28.9% pay increase from this government, and this government was also willing to go further on improving their working conditions.
France's highest court has annulled a French arrest warrant against Syria's ex-president Bashar al-Assad over deadly 2013 chemical attacks issued before his ouster. The Court of Cassation ruled there were no exceptions to presidential immunity even for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity. But its presiding judge, Christophe Soulard, added that as Assad was no longer president, new arrest warrants can have been or can be issued against him, and as such, the investigation into the case could continue. French President Emmanuel Macron has announced on Friday that he will recognize Palestinian statehood, drawing angry rebukes from Israel and the United States and opening the door for other major nations to potentially, like Britain and Canada, to perhaps follow suit. Here's a report from DD India's Dheeraj Das.
France defended its decision to recognize Palestinian statehood amid domestic and international criticism on Friday, including against the charge that the move plays into the hands of Hamas. On Thursday, French President Emmanuel Macron announced that France will recognize Palestine as a state in September at the United Nations General Assembly. The move will make France the first G7 nation to do so, which is hoping of bringing peace to the region. Macron, who unveiled the decision on X, published a letter sent to Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas confirming France's intention to press ahead with Palestinian recognition and work to convincing other partners to follow suit. Responding to Macron's announcement,
well, a state banquet is being hosted by President of Maldives in honor of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Let's take you to the banquet speeches.
Of the Indian delegation, ministers, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening. It is a profound pleasure to welcome Your Excellency and the distinguished members of the Indian delegation to the Maldives. My wife and I still carry fond memories of the warmth and generosity with which you received us during our visit to India last October. Tonight, we are delighted to reciprocate that friendship and goodwill in the spirit of the close ties between our two nations. Excellency, first of all, let me convey my heartiest congratulations to Your Excellency on becoming the second longest serving Prime Minister of India today. This remarkable milestone, 4,078 consecutive days in office, is a testament to your unwavering commitment to public service and dedication to the progress and prosperity of the Indian people. Wishing Your Excellency continued success as you lead India towards greater heights. Excellency, this year marks 60 years of diplomatic relations between the Maldives and India, a milestone that reflects not only our shared history, but also the depth and resilience of our partnership. Yet, the bond between our peoples predates diplomatic formalities. For centuries, the Indian Ocean has been a witness to our shared journey. As traders, travelers, and neighbors, we exchanged goods, stories, and ideas across these waters for centuries. It is the same ocean that unites us today, with ties that no tide can break. Excellency, India has long stood as the Maldives' closest and most trusted partner. Our collaboration spans a wide range of areas, from security and trade to healthcare, education, and beyond, touching the everyday lives of our citizens. Every day, hundreds of Maldivians travel to India for medical care, education, and business, just as we warmly welcome members of the Indian diaspora who continue to contribute meaningfully to our economy and society. My government's vision is clear: to build a resilient, inclusive, and forward-looking economy that is vibrant, to empower our youth to thrive in the digital age, and to ensure lasting peace and security in our shared region. In pursuing these goals, India's partnership remains invaluable. This evening, I reaffirm the Maldives' steadfast commitment to preserve and strengthen the special bond between our two nations and our people. Excellency, the government and people of Maldives deeply value the friendship of India and are sincerely grateful for the timely assistance your country has extended to us in moments of need. As neighbors and partners, let us continue to explore new avenues of cooperation that promotes prosperity, upholds shared values, and fulfills the aspirations of our people. On behalf of the government and the people of Maldives, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to you and your government for your enduring friendship and reliable support. May the Maldives-India partnership continue to flourish in the years ahead. And may the people of India be blessed with continued peace, happiness, and prosperity. Thank you.
Now, I would like to invite His Excellency Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi to deliver remarks.
राष्ट्रपति जी, फर्स्ट लेडी, उपराष्ट्रपति जी, स्पीकर महोदय, एस्टीम गेस्ट, नमस्कार। पिछले वर्ष राष्ट्रपति जी स्टेट विजिट पर भारत आए थे और अब उनके कार्यकाल का पहला स्टेट गेस्ट बनने का सौभाग्य मुझे मिला है। मालदीव के 60वें स्वतंत्रता दिवस पर गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर के रूप में आना मेरे लिए सम्मान की बात है। मैं इस निमंत्रण के लिए राष्ट्रपति जी का आभार व्यक्त करता हूं और सभी भारतवासियों की ओर से मालदीव के लोगों को हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। इस वर्ष भारत मालदीव संबंधों की भी 60वीं वर्षगांठ मनाई जा रही है। इस सुखद संयोग ने मेरी इस यात्रा को और भी विशेष बना दिया है। फ्रेंड्स, भारत और मालदीव के संबंध सदियों पुराने हैं। हम पड़ोसी हैं, साझेदार हैं और जरूरत के समय साथ खड़े रहने वाले सच्चे मित्र हैं। जैसा मैंने पहले भी कहा है, मालदीव भारत की नेबरहुड फर्स्ट पॉलिसी में विशेष स्थान रखता है। जैसे दिवेही में कहते हैं, डिप्लोमेसी अ भूरे बोड़ा फेन्ननी गाय गुल्लुन। यह केवल डिप्लोमेसी नहीं है, बल्कि गहरी आत्मीयता का रिश्ता है। हमारी साझी विरासत मानसून जितनी पुरानी और अड़ूबोंडी मिठाई जितनी मीठी है। हमारी भाषाओं में हमारी संस्कृति की गहराई झलकती है। दिवेही और मिनिकॉय की महल भाषा की जड़ें समान है। दिवेही में कई शब्द भारत से आए हैं, जैसे बगीचा, हुनर, खबर, जज्बा, फुर्सत। हमारे स्वाद भी मिलते हैं। भारत और मालदीव का कॉम्बिनेशन मसाला और मसहूनी की तरह है। अलग अलग होते हुए भी एकदम परफेक्ट। फ्रेंड्स, सदियों से हमारे लोगों के बीच जो आत्मीय रिश्ते बने हैं, वे आज भी उतनी ही मजबूती से कायम है। भारत में पढ़ने वाले मालदीव के हजारों छात्र, इलाज कराने वाले नागरिक और मालदीव को मासा कई कुरा गौम यानी कर्मभूमि बनाने वाले भारतीय, ये सब हमारी साझी कहानी के पात्र हैं। और आप देखिए, आपका इस साल का 10 लाखवां टूरिस्ट भी भारतीय ही निकला। फ्रेंड्स, हम दोनों ग्लोबल साउथ के साथी हैं। इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर या फिर कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग, मालदीव की विकास यात्रा के हर मोड़ पर भारत एक सच्चा साझेदार और सहयात्री रहा है। अब हमें व्यापार, सुरक्षा और सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट पर आगे बढ़ना चाहिए। भारत और मालदीव का रिश्ता भरोसे की नींव पर टिका है और सद्भाव से चलता है। आज राष्ट्रपति जी के साथ मिलकर हमने इसके उज्जवल भविष्य के प्रति अपनी प्रतिबद्धता दोहराई है। फ्रेंड्स, इस भावना के साथ आइए हम सब मिलकर राष्ट्रपति जी और उनके परिवार के उत्तम स्वास्थ्य के लिए, मालदीव के लोगों के सुख और समृद्धि के लिए और भारत और मालदीव की अटूट मित्रता के लिए शुभकामनाएं व्यक्त करें। एक बार फिर मालदीव के लोगों को स्वतंत्रता दिवस की हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
You heard banquet speeches by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Dr. Mohamed Moitz of Maldives in Male. And there the Prime Minister said that he is the first state guest under President Moitz's presidency. He noted that, and he said that it is a matter of honor for him to be the guest of honor at the Independence Day celebrations of Maldives. He also said that it is a happy coincidence that this year also marks the 60th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relationship between India and Maldives. And he said that we are neighbors, we are collaborators, but we are also true friends. He said that this is not just diplomacy, this is deep friendship. He said that Maldives in India's neighborhood carries a special place as far as India's neighborhood policy is concerned. He also noted the linguistic similarities that are there between India and Maldives languages. And he said that our ties are centuries old and they are as strong today as they were centuries ago. He also spoke of how the medical tourists that come from Maldives to India, or the students who come to study from Maldives to India, or the Indian diaspora, they form very important links as far as the common journey of India and Maldives is concerned. He noted that in Maldives, the 10th lakh tourist or the 1 millionth tourist was Indian. That goes on to show the strong bonds that exist between the peoples of India as well as Maldives. And he said that we are partners as far as the global south is concerned, and we've stood by each other, and India stands by Maldives when it comes to infrastructure or capacity building. He said that going forward, our relationship will prioritize trade, security, as well as sustainable development. And he also said that this relationship is underpinned by trust and solidarity. And earlier, we heard the Maldives president welcoming Prime Minister Narendra Modi and congratulating him for becoming the second longest-serving PM of India today. And he did say that ties cannot be broken by any tide. The relationship between India and Maldives is so strong. And he also said that India has long stood as Maldives' closest and most trusted partner. So those were the highlights from the banquet speeches of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Moitz of Maldives. Let's get analysis now on the banquet speeches and also on day one of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Maldives. Tomorrow is day 2. And tomorrow, of course, is also important in the context of the Independence Day celebrations of Maldives, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the guest of honor there. And like the Prime Minister said in his banquet speech, it's a happy coincidence that this honor has been accorded to Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a year when both India and Maldives are celebrating 60th anniversary of establishment of their diplomatic relations. Joining us for perspective are Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha. He is chairman of India Foundation Trustee Board, and also Ambassador Sanjay Bhattacharya, who's served as India's ambassador to Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Turkey, Egypt and the Arab League. Well, Ambassador, I'll begin with you. Your opening remarks on where does the relationship between India and Maldives stands currently, and what made a complete turnaround in this relationship in a year or so possible?
Well, I think Prime Minister's visit on the occasion of the 60th anniversary of Maldives' independence marks three important aspects from my perspective. The first is it's a reaffirmation of the very deep friendship between the peoples of the two countries. It's an old one and it has stood the test of time. It is something that is trusted and reliable. India is the first responder. Maldives is part of our neighborhood first policy, and today is an extension of the Sagar to Mahasagar as well as the Global South. The second one is that as we've always been at the side of Maldives in their times of difficulty and in their times of joy, we have now extended a hand of cooperation on economic front. A free trade agreement is to be worked on, as well as a bilateral investment protection agreement. And there is an announcement of a huge line of credit towards the building of infrastructure. The third aspect that I think is equally important for such close partners is the fact that this particular relationship is based on the foundation of a relationship between people. And this is something that Prime Minister also emphasized in terms of the exchanges, the tourists that go to India, the students and the medical patients who come to India, the Indian tourists who go to Maldives, and this exchange, which is at a cultural and various other levels, and which is now represented by the leadership of the Maldives as well. We have always stood by Maldives, and we shall continue to do so.
Absolutely. Admiral, coming to you now. India stood by Maldives in times of crisis, and there are quite a few instances one can cite here, from a 1988 coup attempt to 2014 water crisis, from the 2019-20 COVID-19 pandemic to 2004 tsunami to a continuing financial crisis. Moiz had said this when he had visited India in October last year, that India is a key partner in the socio-economic and infrastructure development of Maldives and has stood by Maldives in our times of need, something he said right now as well. There was further evidence of that when India had reduced, of course, debt repayment obligation of Maldives drastically today, which Ambassador also pointed to. Has Maldives realized that this is what goodwill from a neighbor looks like?
Well, thank you, Munmun, for getting me on your program. It's good to remember the little bit of background. When he fought the election, it was on a plank of India out. And that was not because he wanted it, because it was a coalition partnership with Mr. Yamin's party, and Mr. Yamin advised him that he should fight on this plank and only then he will win. It was not his view to start with. And now, after having won, though he made those gestures of India out and keeping India out, a lot of their agreements were kept on hold. But soon he realized that day-to-day affairs of Maldives cannot move, including vegetables and rice and lentil, what have you, apart from any big things. And he was told by all his advisors that, what he's doing is not the right thing to do. And they gave hundreds of examples as to why Maldives needs India. So I think that reality has dawned on him after he has taken over the presidency. And I'm sure that he must have annoyed President Yamin, who was his coalition partner, but they will manage their own political issue. So here, as you said, there is a complete turnaround from what he was and what he is now. That is because the realities have dawned on him. And I think that, from now on, we will not see very much of Chinese influence, except for the projects which they have already agreed to, projects on which the work is already going on. But it will not go beyond this. And we can talk about the security part even further.
Yes, we'll come to that. Ambassador, in October 2024, during the state visit of President Moitz to India, the two leaders had jointly adopted a framework document. It's called India-Maldives, a vision for comprehensive economic and maritime security partnership. Now, both have decided to take various elements of this joint vision forward and explore newer areas of collaboration too. Can such comprehensive cooperation draw both sides so close that it really won't matter which party is in power in the Maldives in future?
I think the two sides are already very close. And I think the economic and logistics and people-to-people contacts are actually so deep that it would be very difficult for any one individual to try and shake it off. That is not to suggest that there have not been attempts to do so. There are various parties that may be interested in bridging, in kind of having a divide in this particular relationship. But I think fundamentally the relationship is very deep. What we did during Moitzu's visit in terms of that very comprehensive partnership that we had on economic and maritime security issues was to emphasize the two key aspects that are there at the functional level. The economic bondage between the two is very tight, and it is something that India is always willing to extend a helping hand, and Maldives needs this partnership. The maritime security issue, on the other hand, is one in which we see increased contestation in the Indian Ocean region. Prime Minister had advanced this idea of Sagar in 2015, which was elaborated this year in the form of Mahasagar. And I would expect that Maldives would be a very key partner in this particular initiative, given its very strategic location in the Indian Ocean. And so it is very important for Maldives and its leadership to understand that the geopolitics of the region, the emerging trends in the Indian Ocean, are one in which Maldives would benefit in the longer term and in a more stable and secure way in terms of its relations that it has had for a very long time with India. This is also something that will give it greater sustenance in terms of the other preoccupations of non-traditional threats, such as climate change and other things that Maldives is often a victim of, and India has often extended a helping hand in that as well.
Right, Admiral, since you were referring to the defense cooperation earlier, since 1988, defense and security has been a major area of cooperation between India and Maldives. Do you think strategic trust is at the heart of our defense engagements? And you would remember that India had immediately withdrawn its troops when they were no longer required, assuaging fears of any Indian dominance or territorial aspirations. So is there an underpinning of trust and defense ties?
I think it was more of the geopolitics playing out in that country because of the Chinese influence, which was there very much with the previous president and initially with the present president. And therefore, he did what he did. But let me tell you, the helicopter is back. The aircraft is back. They are flying the way they were. The whole team is back now. So I think that, you know, the geopolitics and political pressures always impact on any agreements that you have. But let me also tell you that about 70% of the Maldivian defense forces are trained in India. They do all the courses. Most of their CDF, the Chief of Defense Staff, they have done their National Defense College or the Staff College here in India. And we will have to ensure that we take on the projects or fund the projects which are helpful to the people. It improves their lives in various islands. And that will earn a lot of respect for India amongst the masses. And that is important. You will also recall that when this India Out campaign, after he won, there was a big demonstration in Male against the president's, this view. And they said we should not be getting away from India because they are the people who knew how important it is. So our security relationship is quite strong, Mulmun. And he had put a stop to the radar chain, which falls into our trilateral cooperation. Now it is quadrilateral, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, and India, and some more are going to join. So hopefully those radar stations will, become operational. The Hanimadu airport, which is only about 100 and how much, 140, 138 kilometers from Minicoy Island. That is being built by us. It is already there. It is being extended by us. And all the surveillance radar out there will be put by our own country. Earlier, it was very close to being given to Chinese, which was put to stop by India's sort of suggestion that they should not be doing anything like this. So I think as far as defense is concerned, defense people to people, Mulmul, the cooperation and friendship is fairly strong. What happens to the political aspect that we have all seen, how it has changed. You know, politicians can change the view, but the defense forces are fairly strongly tied with India. Mulmul.
Right, Ambassador, both sides are discussing an FTA, you had referred to it. Also, a bilateral investment treaty is being discussed. Bilateral trade in 2024, if you look at the figures, they cross $500 million. The balance of trade is heavily tilted in India's favor. Now, close on the heels of the India-UK FTA, can these two pacts with Maldives qualitatively improve trade ties, boosted by another settlement system, which is a local currency settlement system between rupee and rupiah, so it will be easier to trade?
Yes, of course. I think a closer integration of the two systems to be formalized will be beneficial for both sides, particularly for Maldives, which is heavily dependent on imports. Also, given that a very large share of its economy depends on tourist revenue, for which it requires high-quality inputs of various goods and services, India will continue to be a very serious provider of those. So the FTA, which is to be negotiated, I think should be relatively easy to do. I think, as we have seen with many other countries, there is now a push within our country, within the government, to try and have these FTAs because they also advance our Viksit Bharat idea and the question of integration into the globalized world. I would also wish to add at this point of time that there was, I think, an agreement which was done on digital physical infrastructure, on DPI.
Yes,
the
digital
adoption
solutions.
of the UPI and the use of RuPay cards. And I think all these would be greatly beneficial for the further financial integration, as well as the increased integration that is necessary in the data space in today's context. So this is something that will be good. I was particularly pleased to see that there is a decision to have the investment agreement, because there is a great potential for new investments in Maldives, and Indian entrepreneurs are very keen to participate more actively in the various sectors of Maldives' economy, in building its infrastructure, in building its services sector, particularly the hospitality, medical services. And I think this is going to be a win-win situation for both sides.
Right, we'll leave it at that. Ambassador and Admiral, pleasure to have you on DD India NewsHour. Moving on now, going back to a story on Emmanuel Macron's decision to recognize Palestinian state. Macron's announcement drew angry rebukes from Israel and the United States, and opening the door for other major nations to potentially, like Britain and Canada, to perhaps follow suit. Here's a report from DD India's Dheeraj Das.
France defended its decision to recognize Palestinian statehood amid domestic and international criticism on Friday, including against the charge that the move plays into the hands of Hamas. On Thursday, French President Emmanuel Macron announced that France will recognize Palestine as a state in September at the United Nations General Assembly. The move will make France the first G7 nation to do so, which is hoping of bringing peace to the region. Macron, who unveiled the decision on X, published a letter sent to Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas confirming France's intention to press ahead with Palestinian recognition and work to convincing other partners to follow suit. Responding to Macron's announcement, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas on Friday hailed the decision by France as a victory for the Palestinian cause. Palestinian Authority's Vice President Hussein al-Sheikh thanked the French president, saying Macron's position reflects France's commitment to international law and its support for the Palestinian people's rights to self-determination. Palestinians in the streets of Hebron welcomed the announcement, saying France must be brave. The plan drew angry rebukes from Israel and the United States, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemning the decision, saying such a move rewards terror and risks creating another Iranian proxy. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz too came out against Macron, calling the decision a disgrace and a boost to the Hamas murderers. Within hours, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio responded angrily to Macron's announcement, calling it a reckless decision. Reacting to the announcement, Britain said it supports eventual recognition of a Palestinian state, while asserting for securing a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
So it is a manifesto commitment of this government that we want to establish statehood for Palestine. It needs to happen in a way that will be empowering and deliver the long-term peace and stability that Palestine needs. Sovereignty exists for a reason, and we need to make sure that that sovereignty can be exercised at the moment of attaining statehood.
Germany said it is not planning to recognize a Palestinian state in the short term, and its priority now is to make long overdue progress towards a two-state solution. Italian Foreign Minister said Italy is not ready to recognize Palestine unless it comes with reciprocal recognition of Israel. Other European leaders welcomed Macron's announcement as a bold step towards peace. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, whose country already recognizes Palestinian statehood, welcomed Macron's announcement. Qatar, Jordan, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait too welcomed Macron's pledge as a boost for Palestinian self-determination and regional peace. Dheeraj Das for DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. Time now for all the sports action. In a groundbreaking moment for Indian chess, the 2025 Women's World Cup final will be an all-Indian clash. It's going to be Koneru Hampi versus Divya Deshmukh. Two extraordinary players, two different generations and one ultimate goal, global glory. DD India's Narayan Singh brings us more on this epic final.
When the winds of change starts blowing, they don't ask for permission. They just change the game. And right now, those winds are blowing straight from India, across the chessboard and across the world. Yes, you heard right. The final of the 2025 Women's Chess World Cup is going to be an all-Indian showdown between two of the country's finest chess minds, Koneru Hampi versus Divya Deshmukh. If you take a look at their journey in the semi-finals, both the Indians outfitted top Chinese opponents. Koneru Hampi defeated Li Tingji and Divya Deshmukh defeated Zhong Yi, who played the World Championship match just 2 months ago. What a power-packed performance by Team India on the global stage of world chess. Now first, let's talk about the new superstar on the block, that is Divya Deshmukh. At the age of just 19, she is already a World Cup finalist, and in her first ever World Cup appearance, she is the youngest finalist in the tournament history. The 15th seed who beat the best in the business. And now she is heading straight to the candidates tournament next year, a shot at the World Championship. And the Grandmaster title isn't so far. And then there is the Queen of Indian chess, Koneru Hampi, a mother, a warrior, a world rapid champion. She won her first world title just 2 years after becoming a mom. And in 2024, she did it again. What makes Hampi special? She has seen it all, done it all, and still plays like she's more hungry. That's the champion mentality. From sweeping team gold at the Olympiad to Gukesh becoming the world champion and now this final. It's safe to say that India is ruling the chess world like never before. Two legends, two generations and one final. And that is Hampi versus Divya, a clash of experience and youth. And no matter who wins, the trophy is coming back to India. We might even see the 4 Indian women there, Vaishali, Harika, and these 2 finalists of the Chess World Cup. That's the depth of the Indian chess right now. From the young talents rising to the legends rewriting history. Indian chess is not just growing, it's dominating. Narayan Singh for DD India.
So brace for the epic All-India final tomorrow. On the eve of the 26th Kargil Vijay Divas, the Indian Army felicitated the family members, soldiers and warriors who defended the motherland with their lives in the war. Prayer by Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian and Buddhist priests was conducted for the immortal souls. An army band paid tribute to the soldiers with patriotic songs and tunes. Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi will be laying wreath at the Kargil War Memorial in Dras on Saturday. India's armed forces defeated Pakistani troops and recaptured the peaks in Dras, Patalik and Kargil sectors in extremely challenging terrain and at heights of 17,000 feet. That's it in this edition of DD India NewsHour, but do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. This is Munmin Bhattacharya from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India NewsHour. Namaskar.